welcome back. I'm going to look at True Romance and Natural Born Killers today, the two films that were written by Tarantino, but he didn't direct them. These were after Reservoir Dogs came out and around the time of Pulp Fiction, when Quentin Tarantino was like becoming a big name. So there was a lot of interesting films he'd written before he'd big break that were meant to be his first films, but they never got financed, and so the scripts were sold, and he used that money, and he planned to use that money to actually finance his first film as a director. Then he got funding, goes, and once he'd done that, so these scripts are now out in the open. So both films are made by big directors, one by Tony Scott and one by Oliver Stone. One Tarantino liked, one Tarantino hated. And he's actually kind of correct in which ones to like and which to hate, actually. I watched both of them after reading cinematic speculation, and I thought I'd watch the films he had written but not directed. I'd also watched Reservoir Dogs again, but I'd already done a video on Reservoir Dogs, so there's no point in doing that. So, the interesting thing is, both of these are very flawed young man scripts and very flawed young man ideas. The big thing is, if you actually watch Reservoir Dogs again, it feels so much more mature than these two scripts. It feels so much more in control of itself, like it knows what it is. It's not trying to be autobiographical, and it's not trying too hard on anything. It's not trying to show off and say, oh, look at how wonderfully bizarre I can be. It's just a story. And so, in some ways, it was better for Tarantino not to have made these films because they would have been self-indulgent. And by Reservoir Dogs, he'd got whatever he had to get out of his system, and these films that film actually felt much more cohesive. And a film made by a director who's interested in something rather than, hey, look at me. And he moved on to Pulp Fiction and Jackie Brown, which was a really good first three films. Some of the other films he's made after that I've had some problems with, but he's a really good early go of it. So these two films, I'll start with True Romance. It came out first, and that was well received, but didn't do very well financially. But it's a cult film, and it's done well over the years. It's a film that's always been released when it's VHS to DVD to Blu-ray to 4K. There's always a new version of True Romance coming out. It's always been remastered. It's always in circulation. It's not one of the great Tarantino films, but is viewed of as, a good early film that he wrote, and it's well liked by most people, I think. Most people who like Tarantino like True Romance. They have some issues. Some people do not like the early dialogue and romance stuff, and much prefer the action bits, because it is a bit cutesy and things like that. But it does have charm. That stuff does have charm. And it does get you to like the characters. So it's a tricky thing. It's just different perspectives. I've always liked True Romance without being mad about it. I've always really enjoyed it. Whenever I watch it, I enjoy it. But I don't watch it like all the time or anything. I just watch it once in a while. The script was written in a different way from the way it was shown. There was no voiceover in the original script. The voiceover was added. It was very kind of Badlands-like. And the score's kind of Badlands-like as well. Hans Zimmer did a lot of Badlands influenced stuff in film. And that kind of is a kind of annoying thing to me. I don't really like. It adds a bit of sentimentality to the story that might be a bit tougher. And it does create a disconnect at times. But the disconnect's not that bad. So it's like, I can forgive that. It's just like, whenever I see it, it's like, it's a bit much. But I like the film, so I'll go along with it. It helps that the two leads are enjoyable. Christian Slater and Patricia Arquette. Especially Arquette, who's really has a part that could have been horrible in lesser hands, because it is like the hook of her heart of gold. It is the worst cliche, but she makes the character lovable and decent, and she's got that energy to her that really works. Slater's an enjoyable presence in the film, but he's always been an actor who he's an actor who's solid, but he never tends to rise to the occasion very often, is the best way to put it. Like, his best part's probably still Heathers, which was one of his early parts. That was his most distinctive part. From then on, he's always tried to be a kind of more reliable character actor. And in this one, the charm, she's a lot of charm that works for the romance, and his relationship with Arquette really works. But when he has to switch gears to being a bit more violent and a bit darker and a bit crazier, the gear switch isn't as solid. It's not bad, it's just there's a gear switch that feels missing. But because the film was scripted a different way, that could be a script problem rather than an acting problem. It's just that I've seen Slater and other things, and he always has that slight problem. It says that he's not good at switching gears. He's either playing someone who's crazy or he's playing someone who's decent. The in-between bit he seems to have a problem with, like switching back and forth. And this character switches. And I think also they don't want to make him too menacing because he's meant to be a lead character, so it could have been a direction thing, but I think it's an actor thing. But it's not horrible, it's just one of those things like, I wish it had been a bit more crazy later on. It would have been a bit more interesting. But he keeps it grounded. He has ground in the film a lot of the time. So that works, because he has to ground the film when a lot of weird things happen. So I feel some of that was just to make sure the plot didn't spin it in control. It's like, do not do a character actor thing here. Be normal. So it's hard to tell, is it a script, is it an actor, is it a direction thing? But it is a kind of thing where there's a switch that didn't happen. But since I've seen the actor's other work, it's something he does tend to not be great at. The film is really kind of made by supporting actors. This one is a film where all the other actors come in and have a guest spot and have some great scenes, and the two leads have to keep the thing going. But because the two leads are really enjoyable, it doesn't matter. And the film just goes careening from one place to the other all the time. It's basically about, you've probably seen it, it's a couple fall in love, two people fall in love, become a couple, get married, accidentally steal cocaine from a drug dealer when they're just trying to get her clothes back, are on the run from these drug dealers, all end up in Hollywood, in the big Hollywood system, try to sell the drugs to Hollywood. A lot of people end up in one room with lots of guns. It's very basic. But in between, getting from Detroit to Hollywood and having all these, which is the Beverly Hills Cop thing. You know, Beverly Hills Cop goes from Detroit to Hollywood. It's obviously a little joke in that. And Scott made Beverly Hills Cop too. So it's the second time going from Detroit to Hollywood. So he's so there's lots of scenes. There's you've got Val Kilmer as the ghost of Elvis, who's given Christian Slater's character some really horrible advice about killing people and all the rest of it, which is completely twisted. Which is why I wish Slater was a bit crazier in certain scenes, because to just go into some of the weirdness of it all, because this is very much a no retreat, no surrender idea. But that was a ghost of Bruce Lee. As you see in this film, there's lots of influences of different things that haven't quite been managed the way they do in Reservoir Dogs. You've got Dennis Hopper's Slater's dad. You've got Christopher Walken as the main thug going after Slater, and him and Hopper have the best scene in the film where they're trading insults, and Hopper's a great monologue that's very infamous now, but Sicilians and their heritage. You get Bronson Pinchot as this little guy in the Hollywood rung who is a connect to the big guys. You've got Saul Rubinek as a very Joe Silver-like producer. You've got, Brad Pitt as a stoner on the couch. You've got lots of really fun characters. You've got Gary Oldman as Drexel, who's this white guy who thinks he's black. It's just lots of weird stuff going on in this film, and lots of great weird character bits. So, but the film was structured to be different, so it would all the information would come in different ways, and it was all straightened out in the finale. And the finale also had, in the original script, Christian Slater's character died, and they rewrote to make him live. So, but it works in the film. If he died, it would have been a bit too depressing. I think because of the style of the film and the the tone of it, it made that probably the right decision. So it's very much a Tony Scott film. After Tarantino did his stuff, all the character things, it's got a romantic kind of feel to it via Tony Scott. It's one of his better films. He came off this after Last Boy Scout, then on to Crimson Tide, so he was having a good run at this point, probably his best one he would have, where all those films are really enjoyable. There's everything kind of works. It's like one of those films. It's not great, but it works. It's enjoyable. You get a sense of it was dealing with a very immature script that was very enjoyable, and it's got that energy to it, and it just delivers what it is. It's an immature film, but it's really well done. There's a lot of talented people making the film, and it's an enjoyable film to go back to. There's lots of nice scenes. It's not perfect, but it's one of those films where the flaws can make it work. Really, a lot of the flaws are part of its charm, you know. So it's a really fun film. So it's honest, I'd watch this over some of the later Tarantino films, even though this one's way more adolescent in the writing, but it's more fun than some of his later films. As a director, I mean, I'd watch this over Inglourious Basterds easily, or Django Unchained. I mean, some of his later films after that I like a lot more, like, you know, Hateful Eight and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I like them a lot more than this, but I'd rate it higher on some of his films. So now Natural Born Killers, which is the other film. Both of these films have Tom Sizemore in supporting parts. True Romance and Natural Born Killers. And the difference is astonishing, because in True Romance, Tom Sizemore is really likeable as a cop who's in it for like 10 minutes. In Natural Born Killers, he's way over the top. He's not horrible. I mean, there's a lot of actors who are much more horrible than he is in this film. But it's like, it's less with more, really. And that's the whole idea of this whole film. Everything's way overdone. Everything's way over edited. Everything's way overwritten, overshot. So it's a Tarantino script that was rewritten by Oliver Stone to add depth to it, which is, I think, a tone for incoherence. This is just an incoherent film. It has no idea what it's saying. It has no idea what it's about. It vaguely has the idea that MTV and the dislocation of culture in the 80s and 90s has led to a lot of people feeling isolated and becoming violent, which was the case, but you need a better film to actually show that. There's also the case of easier access to guns, you know, easier access. There's lots of easy access to violence and culture. There's always been a case in American culture with lots of guns and its culture. It's always been a problem. But this film goes completely into its media's fault in a way that is incoherent and is dangerously stupid. Because it will tell people that your bias is correct. It's all the media's fault. And the media gets some blame. The media will sell anything, will hyperbolize anything to sell itself. But that's only part of a culture. It's not the full thing. You can turn the TV off anytime and escape that. So it's not the full thing. There's some part of it, but there's social issues of like people coming from poor families, having no prospects, where they feel violence is the only way, and there's easy access to guns. There's lots of stuff in there that could trigger people more than overhyped media. And this film's just all on the overhyped media train, because it allows you to do lots of weird shots. And it's about serial killers who you don't understand why they're serial killers. Like, there's no feeling of why these people go mad. They try and suggest why they go mad by suggesting abuse. Like, there's a horrible flashback with Rodney Dangerfield where it's this family thing that's showing the flashbacks of the female serial killer played by Juliette Lewis. It's so overdone and so horrible, and suggesting everyone's a sitcom, however, and Sessions' background's a sitcom, which It's terrible, and especially if you've seen Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me, which does this so much creepier and so much scarier about what could happen in suburban life. This is just an insult. This is terrible. And it doesn't even with all of that stuff, it doesn't suggest why this person ended up the way they are. Because the character Juliette Lewis plays is incoherent. The character Woody Harrelson plays is incoherent. They haven't been written properly so the actors can grab onto anything. It's just like, oh, do this, do that, do that. It's a collage of emotions, and eventually they'll form to make something. It's like, no, they don't. They're just actors doing weird shit. Throughout the film, just actors doing weird, crazy stuff. That's the whole film. And this film does not have the discipline to actually try and lock down what's going on. And if you can't lock down what's going on, just suggest it and let people fill in the blanks themselves. But if you can't pull that off, don't do it. In this film, things can do a lot of stuff it can't. It's really bad. It's excruciatingly bad. I mean, I remember when it came out, it was one of those films that was banned. And of course, everybody had it in like in terrible condition VHSs because you couldn't see it, and because people were terrified that this would corrupt the youth, and it was like, don't want. It's too stupid to corrupt the youth. Anyone who saw it was like, this is a bit dumb, isn't it? Yep, but it's visually fun. That's the thing, is it was like no one really took it seriously, but they said, oh, it's amazing. It's like, no, it's not. It's stupid. So there's a whole section of them in the run that, again, echoes Badlands, but it's terrible compared to Badlands because it does not have any psychology or any reason for what they are and why they're acting that way. I mean, the actors do their best. Woody Harrelson and Juliette Lewis are good actors, but they're given nothing to do. They're just like, just do this, do that. And you can see it in a straighter version of the film. They could have been effective if it was directed by someone who knew what they were doing. But Oliver Stone is just throwing stuff at the screen. He doesn't understand his own script at all. I mean, he throws in an Indian trying to cure them of violence, which is stupid. It's like, people who are violent for a reason, and throwing in an Indian and drugs trips is not a cure for anything. It's like, you need long-term help and facing your own demons in a way that's not a literal demon. Like, everyone's got a literal demon on their shoulder in this film. It's terrible. It's so dumb. I mean, the best stuff really is when Robert Downey Jr. appears as Wayne Gale, because he knows he's in trash and he's having fun. He's playing this like over the top Australian newscaster who's a total psycho and a hypocrite, and he's meant to be the villain of the piece. But unfortunately for this film, the heroes who they're trying to show as misunderstood are actual serial killers. Which, these are people you cannot misunderstand. They kill lots of people. And the villain is the most sympathetic character in the film because he's so entertaining. We know he's a scumbag, but he's just so enjoyable. Because Robert Downey Jr. is an enjoyable actor. And Tommy Lee Jones is meant to be the other authoritarian figure who's meant to be menacing. He's the prison, the guy in charge of the prison. And he's way over the top as well. And it's like, but these two actors are having much more fun with this film than anyone else. And I can't really hate them because they're more enjoyable than anyone else. And it's asking you to sympathise with serial killers and say, oh, they may have a point with some of this stuff. And it's like, no, they don't. They're just idiots. The film is astonishingly stupid. It's astonishingly moronic. It has no points to make. When your lead characters are serial killers and you're trying to make it seem like they have they've learned from their experience and have gained some wisdom, it doesn't work. And if you're not actually willing to accept, I mean, this film is willing to get off on showing them kill lots of people, but isn't really willing to get on board with the idea that those people getting killed actually lead to consequences down the line. And it portrays the people who are the friends of the victims, it portrays them as comic book characters, just characters who are just weird and twisted, and not in a way where you see if a Tarantino had done it, it would be ironic. It would be like much more like everybody's a shade of grey. Now this is just cartoonish, and it doesn't work. And it makes you think they're trying to say these serial killers are cool, when it's like, they killed all these people. They're morons. They're not cool. They're not getting wisdom. They should be locked up forever. And it's such a dumb film. And then they're saying the media is all this horrible stuff. And it goes, yeah, media are hypocrites. They've always been hypocrites. But your media character is much more fun than anyone else in the film. He's during the scenes where he's meant to be getting dominated by Woody Harrelson, don't you just steal in the film? he's so over the top and so energetic. It's like, this guy's so entertaining. It's like, he's so much better than the rest of the film put together. So that doesn't work either. So nothing works. Nothing they plan works. Because the ideas that Oliver Stone has of the script are incoherent. He's throwing visual stuff to try and make sense of something that doesn't make sense. He's cut between different formats, so that a lot of the footage doesn't cut together in a way. Some of it's blurry and some of it's really sharp, and it just gives you a headache. And he just makes you realise he's trying to suggest a kind of chaos that isn't actually there in the frame or in the performances, and you need that in the performances to create the chaos. He's much rather do it visually, but if there's nothing behind the actors' eyes because they're confused as hell about what they're meant to be doing, and it's just a lot of visual chaos. There's no threat. And there's no threat to these characters. These characters should be scary. They are not scary at all. The serial killers are not scary. When they escape towards the end, there's no sense of fear about what they're going to do because they're clowns. And the only reason they escape is because of the other characters portrayed as an even worse clown. There's no threat, there's no fear, there's no nothing. This is just a stupid film. And it goes on for 2 hours and it just meanders on through these incoherent scenes. And all the stones change the filters, make it green and red and all these other things, and you're just getting a headache. It is one of the dumber films ever made. It's terrible, it's really moronic. It has nothing. Even if you actually think the media's greedy and incoherent and stupid, like I do, I think there's lots of criticism you can make of media in any stage of human development. I mean, they always say, oh, we're on the side of good, we're the great revealers of fact, and there's a lot of time there is corrupt, and part of the problem is everyone else. You know, the media has a lot of problems. Doesn't mean every reporter's corrupt, though. There's a lot of reporters who actually do want to do the right thing. There's lots of variations within media that's complicated. That's why it's a massive beast of different interests for the corrupt, the non-corrupt. There's lots of different people arguing with different situations. There's a lot of variety in any organisation, a media organisation, any type of media. It's complicated. And this film doesn't want to steal that. It doesn't want to deal with the fact that serial killers are complicated situations of how do you deal with them, what's their motivations. You know, where's the vanity that creates this need to kill and be public about it? All that stuff's really creepy, and this film does not want to deal with that creepiness. It'd rather just say that this cartoonish thing off the side that we consume all the time is a creepy thing, and doesn't really back it up in any meaningful way because it's not willing to show how creepy its own protagonists are. So as soon as you're aligned with the main part of your drama, everything else that follows fails. Because if you can't be truthful about your main central characters, no other point you can make in a film has any valid meaning. And because this film's so cartoonish about the serial killers, and then becomes even more cartoonish about media, there's nothing to really be gained from it. Because it doesn't understand reality. It just understands the quick sensation of visual images, which is almost like a visual Twitter, is what this film is. It's like lots of noise thrown at you and none of it's coherent. So, natural born killers, crap. It's just total crap. So, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope I didn't ramble too much, but that's me for now. Right, bye.